Welcome to Real Estate Coaching Radio, starring award-winning real estate coaches and #1 international best-selling authors Tim and Julie Harris. This is the #1 daily radio show for realtors looking for a no BS authentic real-time coaching experience. What's really working in today's market, how to generate more leads, make more money, and have more time for what you love in your life. And now your hosts, Tim and Julie Harris.
Welcome back. It's Tim and Julie Harris, and we have a really fun podcast for all of you today. It is a mindset podcast, and we're going to drill down and help you focus on the 6 productivity landmines agents step on every single day. Before we get to our first point, I've got some really fantastic, frankly, a lot of really fantastic news about the real estate markets. I don't know if you guys listen to Logan. I always say his name wrong, Julie. Mohtashami at Housing Wire. We listen to him every day. And he was talking about the fact that home sales, as you know, she and I may have predicted, I'm not saying we did. We're not taking victory laps. Yeah, we are. We are predicting that home sales would go up into the end of the year, into next year. And guess how much they've gone up? 15%. So what we're seeing is a frankly massive upswing in home sales. And now we're also seeing NAR, and we're seeing Fannie Mae, and we're seeing Wells Fargo. Every single one of these entities for the last 3 years are predicting flat, essentially this time of year, they're predicting flat sales for the following year. Every single one of them is expecting the market to improve by, what were you saying, Julie? I was saying 15 to 20% fairly consistently.
Yeah, so far 15 to 20%. So there's actually 2 dueling stories here. There's one that's the predictions, and we're going to have our own predictions podcast probably in early December as data comes in. So there's 2 things. One is predicting next year, and the other one is everybody, if you listen to the podcast you're referring to as Housing Wire Daily, where they were talking about month over month and week over week improvement to the real estate sales, which is highly unusual for fourth quarter. Usually we expect to see a decline, and usually we do actually see a decline. So what I was thinking, and I think you probably would agree with this, is if we're seeing a week over week improvement and month over month towards the end of the year, imagine what the spring's going to be like, because this is very unusual to see something like this.
Now, he's obviously reporting about closings that have happened, right, in the past.
Well, and also mortgage purchase applications, which predicts the future.
Right, exactly. Lawrence Young also predicted or suggested that there's going to be a post-shutdown reopening mini housing boom, which,
I heard that.
Maybe it's just from, I don't know, maybe some of the mortgage stuff got slowed down because of, government, this, that, and the other thing. All right, fine. So point is that we are going to see an unusual spring market. And Julie and I attended a event that was hosted by Bill Ackman today with his proposal about how to get Fannie and Freddie out of conservatorship. I know some of that content's a bit wonkish. It definitely is. But it's important because it's going to directly affect your ability to buy and sell real estate. Julie and I are all over that topic because we know what really ultimately has to happen to address the affordability crisis is we have to get payments down. And that's what a lot of the results of a lot of what's going to happen when Fannie and Freddie come out of conservatorship. Despite what you might be hearing, the numbers tell a different story. By the way, I wrote 2 articles and submitted them to our team this morning that are only going to be appearing in our newsletter, Harris Real Estate Daily. So if you're not a subscriber to Harris Real Estate Daily, make sure you subscribe. And it's free. It doesn't, obviously free means it doesn't cost you anything, but in the newsletter is that day's podcast, that day's podcast notes. And also Julie and I are writing a lot of exclusive content. The newsletter has really become a great community building place for us. All right, Julie, without any further delay, the 6 productivity landmines agents step on every single day. I'll read the introduction, okay? All right, introduction. In the ancients, if the ancient Stoics were alive, they wouldn't be sitting on mountaintops meditating. They'd be best-selling productivity authors, TED Talk speakers, and likely hosts a podcast called Control the Controllables. They wouldn't be real estate coaches, Julie. When you're writing this, you didn't think the Stoics would
maybe. We'll see where this goes.
Marcus Aurelius governed an empire under extreme pressure. Seneca coached leaders and built businesses. Epictetus rose from slavery to become one of the history's most influential teachers. Their advice has lasted 2,000 years because it worked in the real world, especially for people who need clarity, discipline, and constant action. Well written, Miss Harris. And in real estate, that's everything. As we say, success comes from doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. All right, Julie, let's get into productivity killer number 1. Focus on what you can't control.
Yes, the killer is when you focus on what you cannot control. Marcus Aurelius taught us to protect our energy by focusing only on the things that are within our control. Yet many agents derail their day by fixating on, and the list goes on. This is just the top bullet points: mortgage rates, inventory shortages, market predictions, what other agents are doing or saying, strangers on the internet, politics, which is the ultimate time wasting vortex, and social media spirals. These things don't actually move your business forward. They drain your time and your mental bandwidth that you need for things that actually do matter. Make sense?
No, it does. And I mean, I'll summarize point number one is, go media free. That's really, and unfortunately, this time of year, that's where a lot of you are going to lose yourselves, is you're going to start essentially consuming too much content because you're not going to be distracted by work and life because you're going to be, not working. You're going to be taking some time off. And if you're not doing a lot of family activities, well, you might fall prey to a lot of the salacious, really insidious stuff that's waiting for you online. So I'll give you a strong suggestion. For Thanksgiving, Christmas holidays, go media free. Completely, like some people do, what is it called, Julie? Sober October, where they stop. Yeah, right. Why don't you go sober? I don't know. It doesn't rhyme, but holidays. Go purge all forms of media except for our podcast, obviously, from your life. Well, here, I'll give you a cleaner definition. You need to pay attention to how you feel when you're consuming something. When you listen to our podcast, I know that you guys feel educated, motivated, and it helps you to get into action. That's what our sort of treatise is with all of you with this show. And that's the reason probably it's one of the top, if not it is the top daily real estate coaching and training podcast in the world, and one of the top 5 podcasts in our sections on Apple iTunes in the world. All right. So that tells me that a lot of what we say is in alignment with what you guys are hoping to find. So where does that take you? If you're now watching content that's making you feel tribal, making you feel attacked, making you think small, not making you feel optimistic, not making you, feel like you're in the right place at the right time, stop consuming it. It's bad for you. You're drinking, or in the case of media, consuming literal poison. All right. Point number 2, productivity killer number 2, letting emotions run your business. Julie Harris.
Yes, the Stoics taught emotional steadiness. Real estate often teaches emotional turbulence. I don't know if any of you have noticed that in the midst of your deals. Emotional turbulence can wreck things. But here's the reality. If you had a, quote, traditional job, you couldn't just let your feelings dictate your performance. So I asked my assistant to give me some examples of real world scenarios where what would happen if people let their emotions dictate. A pilot that refuses to take off because he's just not in the mood. A barista that stops making lattes because somebody was irritating. A court stenographer walking out mid-trial because they just are having a moment. Or even a school crossing guard deciding they're not going to show up because they got some weird text, right? You can't just let your emotions drive everything, because people with real jobs aren't allowed to do that. Why is it in real estate we act like it's not a real job, and we're just like, oh, well, I'm having a day, I'm not going to call those leads back? It's ridiculous. But lots of agents do let their emotions derail their schedule, their decisions, their day. But top producers live by a different rule, that they don't let their emotions run their business. They have standards that run their business. And that's why that kind of leads to productivity killer number 3.
Well, Julie, check your mic to make sure you're using the right mic. But I'm going to vamp on that just for a tiny amount of time. All of us were raised to believe that if you follow your passions in life, the money will follow. To one extent or another, all of us have been trained to think that. Like, your professional career path is all about pursuing your passions. Okay, that sounds wonderful. But what if your passions don't pay, right? What if your passions are something that have absolutely no chance of ever resulting in any kind of meaningful income for you and your family? Well, then guess what? Your passion is what most passions should always be: a hobby. So if you're only going to do things at a high level that you are passionate about, that means that, because a passion is a fleeting emotion, and you're only going to be essentially doing things that you get a little emotional high from. Like, I like doing this podcast with Julie. But if I do this podcast with Julie for more than an hour or so, trust me, I don't want to do it anymore, because that's a lot of work and a lot of long-term concentration, other things we could be doing with our time, right? So if you wake up every day and all of a sudden you started in real estate 5 years ago because you were passionate about it, legitimately passionate about it, and now you don't have that feeling of passion anymore, and now you're rationalizing, well, I guess it wasn't for me, I don't feel passionate anymore, then you're going to pop to the next thing. Well, that's going to be the cycle of your life, and you're never going to give yourself the opportunity to get really good at anything. So the whole I think, lie about following your passion and the success and the money will follow just isn't true, because most of us don't have passions that could ever lead to any kind of meaningful revenue. Instead, you get really good at something that is essentially of service to other people. And with the profits that come from those particular activities, then you can invest in your passions, right? Maybe you want to learn how to, I don't know, racing on a simulator, my little side hobby, right? Or maybe you want to learn how to crochet, or maybe you want to learn how to make, I don't know what it is. Don't treat those as career paths. Treat those as what they are, hobbies, passions. Do real estate at a high level so you can fund your hobbies and your passions. Productivity killer number 3, starting the day without a plan.
Yes, we see this a lot. The coaches work hard with our clients on this. Seneca warned against drifting, and most unproductive days do start with some kind of a drift. No plan, no priorities, no structure, just notifications and things like that steering your ship. The truth remains, failing to plan is planning to fail, whether you realize it or not. Real estate should instead be run on daily minimum standards. Again, we teach this in Premier Coaching. We're quite serious about this. Not daily improvisation, daily minimum standards, which should include, and this isn't all of them because this is the podcast, this is not coaching, answering your phone during business hours unless you're with clients. That's a good daily minimum standard. You don't know who's going to be the other end, who's your next appointment. Make at least 5 real contacts daily with your most likely to list prospects. Yes, proactive lead generation. Call out all of your active listings and pending clients weekly with updates and your next steps, and even your buyers that are counting on you to find something for them. If they're not hearing from you, they're going to go hunting on their own, or they're going to assume that you're just having a day like one of our previous points, and you're not actually in real estate today. So, not having a plan means you're just going to be subject to whatever's happening in your email. Back to you, Tim.
Julie, try to set the mic down a little bit farther, and it's
Okay.
just because
It is the right one, by the way.
Okay, good. Yeah, you're just a little bright. That's all. It's fine. It sounds better already. Okay. All right. So let's go. Next point that we're talking about is going to be, oh, by the way, one of the best ways to derail your day is, guess what? Checking your email and all your feeds first thing in the morning. Yeah, there's been so much research that's been done. Julie and I were listening to a podcast yesterday, Sean Ryan show, and he had a guy on that was talking about the fact that what essentially the algorithms on social media have figured out how to absolutely positively manipulate you in your emotional state. So it takes you from a very low state to a very high state, and then it sells you something with an ad that follows it. And the example was like, essentially something that's going to make you feel tribal, something that's going to make you feel red or blue, something that's going to make you feel good or bad, one after the other, something that's literally going to trigger your brain to have that fight or flight mechanism.
It raises your cortisol and your emotions, and it literally is triggering you in such a way that you're like more heightened emotional state. And then they pounce on you and sell you something.
No. You forgot.
Or they take you back down again, right? And then you're supposed to buy something.
They give you a nice little kitty cat video, or they'll feed you something about something that makes you feel warm and fuzzy, and then you have a reprieve from the heightened state of emotions. They literally have changed your physiological state from heightened state. Now you're in this little sanguine place, and then they basically hit you with an ad. And they know that depending on who you are, how much of this stuff they have to feed you to get you to click on the ad. That is, I don't know what you want to call it, kind of genius, kind of evil, but there you go. So
cold and calculated, I would say.
None of us are immune to that level of manipulation. It is like, psyops like we've never seen before. All right, productivity killer number 4, doing too much instead of doing the right things.
Yes, and you would call that, Tim, work theater versus
Right.
doing the real work of real estate. So Stoics, like us, focused on essentials. Agents often focus on everything except the essentials. And there is a lot of stuff in real estate that looks like work, but isn't productive. In real estate, the income producing activities are simple and should be non-negotiable. And those things our coaching clients have memorized: proactive lead generation, furiously fast lead follow-up, pre-qualifying, presenting, negotiating, and closing, lather, rinse, repeat. But everything else really is optional. It is noise. Everything else should happen after these things, or in some cases, not at all.
So Julie, okay. You and I talk about this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about the fact that we have people that are constantly trying to get on our podcast, and we always say no. especially if they're talking about any kind of shim sham, flim flam,
Flammery. Yeah.
exactly, lead generation stuff, which most of them what they're trying to get to, the heart of it. And
Mhm.
the reason that Julie and I always say no to the latest shiny object, gimmicky piece of garbage that someone's trying to sell you guys to even give them any bandwidth of ours from the show is because we know the truth. And the truth is every single top producing agent that we've ever personally coached, ever come across, they will talk about the shiny object things. But if you ask them, and we're their coaches, so we know where their business actually comes from, it's almost always primarily from centers of influence and past clients,
Mhm.
business that they have from having been in the business for a while. Or if they're new in the business, it's going to be their centers of influence, but they're actually picking up the phone and they're calling and they're offering something of value like we teach you guys to do in Premier Coaching. So don't just say, oh, one day I'll get to centers of influence, past client, that realm where I can just essentially have that be my main source of business. You can just work your centers of influence now. If you're new in real estate, your old job, your old neighbors, people you know from church, the people you meet at the dog park, things like that. That can form your center of influence and use our scripts to know how to actually directly call those guys. But the moral of the story, what I'm trying to explain to you is the idea that you fill your brain constantly with, oh my God, what am I going to do for lead generation? What's the latest AI gimmick that I need to be chasing? What's the latest branding marketing thing that I need to be chasing? I need you guys just to listen to what I said. The bottom line fact is that virtually all of your business will always come from centers of influence and past clients. We talk about this constantly on our podcast, but I just told you the truth. So you need to give yourself the grace of removing, I was trying to parse what I was going to say, from your life, all of these shammers that are trying to basically sell you into hopium that the real work of real estate can be done on autopilot using AI or using some kind of fancy algorithm, which is not true. All right, productivity killer number 5, avoiding discomfort, the hard things, aka procrastination.
Yes, Epictetus taught that comfort traps us. Modern agents turn avoidance into an art form sometimes. We sometimes call that creative avoidance. They procrastinate on things like, of course, at the top of the list, making any calls of any type at any time, asking direct questions, handling objections, following up quickly, setting appointments, and practicing their skills. But the truth is that avoidance doesn't make the task any easier. It actually makes it a lot heavier. Action creates relief. Avoidance creates anxiety. So this is where your affirmations matter. If it's meant to be, it's up to me. That gets you back into control. I'm a doer. I do things now. I get things done. That's the anti-procrastinator's mantra. Or in our coaching words, success comes from actually doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the at the highest level. Haven't you noticed, Tim, that the agents that avoid proactive lead generation, because that's of course at the top of the list, but that routinely avoid it and that builds up over time, it actually gets worse on them, not better, because they've manufactured that this is going to be difficult and they're going to get hung up on and somebody's going to swear at them and it's going to be miserable. It's almost like they already are living that in their head versus the calls that I love, which is, you're not going to believe I talked to a for sale by owner and they were so nice. Or I talked to 3 expireds and I set 2 appointments out of 3. I can't believe it's always, I can't believe it, because they've tortured themselves for days, weeks, months, or sometimes even years, manufacturing what they thought was going to happen versus reality.
Well, but they have also been psyops by all the companies and all the people trying to sell them crap.
Yeah.
And they've, the psychological operations against you guys. Well, here's why. Because Julie and I are teaching you, showing you how to be a proactive lead generator, showing you what to say and what to do to, actually generate your own leads and not have to buy them. That is the opposite of what everyone else is trying to get you to believe. Nobody wants you to believe that doing the real work of real estate, as we've been trying to get you guys to, prescribe yourselves to for generations now, is the only real way to build a long-term sustainable real estate business. Look, you can buy your leads from Zillow. You can spend a lot of money generating a lot of quote unquote buyer leads. You can do all those types of things, but you won't make any profit. So you've got to remember the tenets of what we're doing in our business is we want you to build a profitable business. And with that profit from your business, you reinvest it in things that will produce passive income for you. And that passive income will then one day, sooner than you think, depending on how much you actually do, as we're suggesting you do, you can live off the passive income that comes from your investments. It's a very simple formula to follow that actually works. works, but it's the exact opposite of what frankly, the psyops are trying to get you guys to believe with regards to the buying of the business, the branding. How many people have you come across in real estate have actually told you, as you've now heard Julie and I over the last 31 minutes, explain to you, we're not trying to sell you leads. We're not trying to sell you leads. We're not trying to sell you marketing and branding. We're not trying to sell you anything other than the things you can learn to do and then you can actually do on your own, independently. You can absolutely proactively lead generate, right?
It's actually a lot easier than worrying about it.
Right. And exactly. And when you dial into what we're saying at the highest level and you just accept the fact that everything you want in life is on the other side of doing what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level, well, guess what? Your entire life gets better because you know what you have to do. You're no longer looking for the next shiny object. You're no longer wasting what should have been your profit on some gimmick. You guys get it? Hopefully you do. Look, I know a lot of you do because thousands of you are in Premier Coaching. And I got great news for you. Now is the perfect time to join Premier Coaching. Just go to premiercoaching.com or click the link below and you can join Premier Coaching for free. We're not even asking you to take any risk. You can join Premier Coaching for free, and that includes all of our first level of Premier Coaching, and that also includes access to a daily semi-private coaching call with one of our Harris certified coaches. How about that? We're taking all the risk. We are that confident that you're going to love the program when you join Premier Coaching. So go to premiercoaching.com. It is your scripts. It is your objection handlers. It is your pre-listing pack. It is your buyer presentation, your seller presentation. It is your daily schedule. It is your business plan. It is everything you possibly will ever need to scale your business in the most profitable of ways. So just go to premiercoaching.com or click the link below. Productivity killer number 6, Julie Harris, letting noise crowd out stillness. Oh, that's good. Yep.
Yes. Letting noise crowd out the stillness. The Stoics valued clarity and quiet thought. But today's agents and people in general live in the opposite world, a constant digital storm of notifications, group chats, app alerts, multitasking, doom scrolling, chronic distraction. If your mind never gets quiet, it never can get clear. And without clarity, productivity is actually impossible. You do have to take control of this. Otherwise, all of your noises and, beeps and bops and phones and apps and all of those things are going to control your world, right? Turn the ringer off, except for, answering incoming calls that could be prospects. All right. So if the Stoics were coaching agents today, their advice would sound familiar. Control the controllables. Steady your emotions. Do the work even when you don't feel like doing it, because most of the time you're not going to feel like doing it. And stop giving your attention to things that will never put a dollar in your bank account. The easy button batteries are dead. That's why it doesn't work, right? Keep on going after that thing. It's over. Do the things that you can control.
Is that your attempt to talk about the Staples ad from the 1990s, Julie?
Hey, they refer to all the time. I just want the easy button. We know you do, but it doesn't work. Okay. Nope. Because it's from the 90s and the batteries are dead. All right.
By the way, can you imagine all the easy button garbage that's going to be pushed on these guys going into the spring of 2026? It is going to be ridiculous. All the goofy crap that people are creating right now on AI to try to sell you guys about marketing and branding and, lead generation, where Julie and I are telling you what to do. By the way, the leads that we want you to call, they don't cost you anything. They're free. Yeah. Okay. The scripts that we want you to use, the conversation outlines we want you to follow, that's included in Premier Coaching.
And they're not hard. They're just, you have to remember, a script is just a series of questions that leads you to either closing on an appointment or deciding you're not going to close for the appointment.
Julie, just to summarize the Stoic point, I got a question for you, and well, you, but everyone else listening too, Jules, is why do y'all want to make it so hard? Seriously, what about this is hard? Nothing. It's all easy. Yes, I said easy. Oh, nothing in real estate is easy. Everything in real estate is easy. You're selling something that everybody wants. Everybody either wants to buy or sell now, later, soon. There's nobody on planet Earth that doesn't want to participate in real estate, right? God bless homeless people, those people aside, but even them, they would love to be in a home. You guys following me on all this? You're selling something that everybody needs. That's pretty incredible. Now, why do you want to make it so complicated, knowing that every single human out there is a potential customer of yours? Why are you believing that you have to create this, cacophony of branding and marketing and all the rest of this stuff and these funnels and all? Guys, all of that stuff, because of AI, it's not dead, but let's just say it's on its way to its own funeral. I'm telling you the truth. Julie and I have given our whole explanation for why we know that AI is going to be the death knell of all these easy button gimmicky things on previous podcasts. I know some of you are offended or at least confronted by what I'm saying. Be confronted because it's for your own good, and realize that your best years in real estate are still ahead of you. The hardest part of what I'm asking you to do is stop making it hard, because on the other side of that is going to be the freedom that you've all been searching for. Because at the end of the day, that's the real reason you got into real estate, because you wanted a sense of freedom and a sense of control. And if you're always looking for the next shiny object, if you're always thinking, well, I got to form a team or I've got to do all these things, okay, that's fine. But you've got to lead with, how do I make the most amount of profit? Because from with that profit, you reinvest it. And then with that, where you reinvest it, S&P 500, rental real estate, things like that, then you can be rich. And rich is merely where your money works for you and you no longer have to work for your money. Open your mind to the possibilities. So listen, guys, thank you for keeping this #1 listened to daily podcast, real estate coaching and training podcast in at least the United States. We'll talk with you on the show tomorrow. Hello, thank you for having watched this video. Please remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel.
That's right. And don't forget to hit that like button, leave your comments and questions below, and we will get right back with you.
Thank you for watching this video. And remember to watch the next one. You're going to love that one.